algebra students. Today we're going to be working with more factoring. In our last lesson, we were factoring out a greatest common factor. Remember, that was like a reverse distribution. Today what we're going to be doing is we will be factoring trinomials into binomials. Basically, we're going to undo FOILing. So to start, let's review our FOILing. When we have two binomials that we're multiplying, we would start with first times the first, so x times x would be x squared. Then we would do the outer. That's what the O stands for. X times 5 is going to be 5x. Then the inner, 3 times x is just 3x. And last, 3 times 5 is 15. And then to finish this, we combine like terms. So we'll have x squared plus 8x plus 15. Now, I want you to be thinking about some things here. Where did that 15 come from? Right? We got the 15 when we multiplied the last number in the first binomial times the last number in the second binomial. So we multiplied 3 times 5. That's how we got 15. Where did the 8 come from? Now, look at what we have. Before we had the 8x, we had 5x plus 3x. That was really from adding the 5 and the 3. So again, what I'm saying here is this number came from multiplying the 3 and the 5. This number came from adding the 3 and the 5. So let's take a look at this one where I have x times x as my first term, so that's x squared. The outer terms, now that's x times a negative 10, so negative 10x. The inner terms, that's a negative 7x. And then the last, negative 7 times negative 10 is positive 70. And then we would want to combine like terms. So we've got x squared minus 17x plus 70. So same kind of questions. Where did the 70 come from? That was the negative 7 times the negative 10. Where did the negative 17 come from? That's from the negative 7 plus the negative 10. And why is it negative? In the first example, that middle term, the 8x, was positive. But that's because I had a positive 3 and a positive 5. In this problem, the 17 is negative because it's a negative 7x and a negative 10x. And when we add with the same signs, we keep that same sign. So that's how it's a negative 17. So I want you to notice that this sign matches these signs. And this sign matches these signs. Right? That's going to be really important today. So what we're going to be doing today, as I already said, is we're going to be taking trinomials and we're going to factor them into binomials. We are undoing FOILing. What I need to do is I want to find numbers that will multiply to be the 12. And since they're the same signs, we're only going to have to worry about adding today. They should add to be the 7 that's with the x. So think through numbers that multiply to be 12 and numbers that from that list that would also add to be 7. I have a feeling some of you already know this. If you don't, you can certainly make a list of numbers that multiply to be 12. That'd be 1 times 12 and 2 times 6 and 3 times 4. Now from that list, the only pair of numbers that would add to be 7 would be this. So when we factor this today, again, we are reverse FOILing. We're going to get back into two binomials. This x squared right here came from an x times an x. The 12 came from multiplying the 3 and the 4. And the 7 came from adding the 3 and the 4. And it's a positive 7, which means I'm going to have addition here. if you're ever not sure. We're going to FOIL to check it. X times x, x squared. This is a 4x, and this is a 3x. And when we add those two together, that gives me my 7x, and 3 times 4 is 12. Now, the second problem has the same 12 at the end, but a different middle term. So I still need numbers that multiply to be 12, and they're going to add to be 13. Again, this x squared tells me I'm going to start with an x in both of these binomials. This tells me that they're both going to be addition. Now, I need numbers that multiply to be 12, but this time they have to add to be 13. So you can look back at the list that I made, but this is the one that's going to work, 1 and 12. Now, by the way, I don't care if you put the 1 first and then 12 second, or if I put the 12 first and the 1 second. They are exactly the same answer. Think about what we know about multiplying. It doesn't matter what order I multiply in. It's not going to change my answer. So I don't really care if the 1 is in the first binomial or if the 12 is in the first binomial. But again, to check this, we would do x times x, that's my x squared. This is a positive 1x. This is a positive 12x. And when I add those two together, that gives me my 13x. And then 12 times 1 is 12. Now, I know I'm a super uber math geek, but I love factoring. This is so much fun. Maybe not everyone agrees with me, but I really, really, really like it. So, 2 sets of parentheses. And again, this x squared tells me it's going to be an x times an x. This tells me they're both going to be addition. Numbers that multiply to be 2 and add to be 3. Okay, we don't have a lot of numbers that multiply to be 2. The only positive numbers that we have that multiplies to be 2, is 1 and 2. And 1 plus 2 is 3. So I'm going to have a 1 here and a 2 here. Check it with foiling if you're not sure, but that does work. The x squared means I'm starting with an x and an x. This tells me I've got addition for both sides. The 6, I need numbers that multiply to be 6 and add to be 5. Okay, numbers that multiply to be 6 could be 1 and 6 or 2 and 3. 2 and 3 is the only pair that'll add to be 5, so I'm going to have a 2 and 3. These problems look a little different because of the subtraction from my middle term. Today, every single problem that we factor, I'm telling you right now, they are all going to be the same signs, which means in each set of binomials, it'll either both be addition or both be subtraction. That subtraction in here is telling me that these are going to be x minus and x minus. Okay? So the x squared gives me the x and the x. This tells me they're both going to be subtraction. Now, I need numbers that multiply to be 27. And remember, they're the same sign. So I don't care that they're negative. They're still going to add to be 12. So think about numbers that multiply to be 27, add to be 12. We don't have a lot of options for 27. I'm purposely picking, to start with, a bunch of problems that don't have a lot of options. 27 is going to be 9 times 3, or 1 times 27. 9 and 3 do add to be 12. So 9 here and 3 there, or the other way around, right? 9 minus 3, 9 minus, x minus 3 and x minus 9 would give me the same answer. Here, this tells me again, this is going to be a minus and a minus. Notice how I'm building the problem every time. Start with your 2 sets of parentheses. Get your x's in there. Get your signs in there. Now I worry about the puzzle. I need numbers that multiply to be 16. This time I've got a few more options. Numbers that multiply to be 16 and add to be 10. Now, again, if you want to make a list, 16 could be 1 times 16, 2 times 8, and 4 times 4. Which of those pairs would give me 10 when I add them? It's right there. in these last two problems, by the way, I hope that you've been writing down some examples, and if you haven't been, please at least write down these last two. We have a 12 again, and we had a list from 12 before. Build up your problem, right? This is telling me subtraction in both. I need numbers that multiply to be 12 and add to be 8. So 1 and 12, no. 3 and 4, nope. 6 and 2, add to the 8. And again, I don't care which number goes first. And for my last problem, x and x, this says they're both subtractions. Numbers that multiply to be 42. I'm guessing most people jump right to 6 times 7. But 6 and 7 do not add to be 23. Now another option here is you don't really need to make a list of every possible combination, but you gotta just try some until you find the right one, right? So 42 is not gonna be 6 and 7 to get the 23. 42 is even though. So 42 divided by 2 could be 21 times 2, and those do add to be 23. And once again, you can check any of these problems by FOILing. X times x gives me my x squared. This is let me write it down, x squared. That's a negative 2x, and this is a negative 21x. And then negative 21 times a negative 2 is a positive 42. And these two together give me negative 23x in the middle. Today's worksheet, when you're factoring, they are all going to be the same signs. And I want you to be looking at where the signs are going to change. On this worksheet, the top part is all x plus for all the binomials. And then all of a sudden there's subtractions. That's where it's all x minus x minus. Let me know if you need any help. The answer key is in Schoology, and there's going to be a formative for you in Schoology. If you need anything, let me know, and tomorrow we will be factoring something different.